everybody, this is Bull Run Crypto, and today we're going to talk about how high Bitcoin price can go in the long term as well as in 2025. We're going to dial this in here and talk about some of the factors that are on the horizon for us here. So welcome to Bull Run Crypto. If you're new, definitely subscribe. Let's get into it. So first up, you can see we're going to look at the chart here for Bitcoin, all right? And you can see it's currently sitting at 96,109. We just made a video yesterday talking about how low it could go. So we're doing the how high it can go forecast, model, prediction, projection, whatever you want to call it. But you can see if you zoom out here, you go to the log, and really where we want to look on the chart is going all the way back to around 2000 and late 2017, because that's when we really saw the beginning of a real frothy market, right? We went from 3,000 to 17,000. That was a big jump. Some would say going from 500 to 3,000 was a big jump, but I would say going from 3,500 all the way up to around 20,000 in 2017 was a big jump. But then you could see it came crashing down. And really, if you guys were holders back then, you remember we came crashing down to 4,000. We ran sideways around 10,000 for a long time, built a good support level, and then we ended up eventually making it to 55,000 in 2021, and then we sold back off again. And people are wondering, where are we at in the cycle here? Well, if you look at that last cycle, in 2022 is when it went down. So that was 2 years after the halving, when it started running sideways like this. So we're about a year, I would say about a year past the halving, right? So we still got a little bit more time for the bull run, people anticipate. And some people even say this bull run cycle might go longer than the last one. So it'll be interesting to see. But you could see we're just barely above those 66,000. We're sitting at 96,000. Percentage-wise, we're not really that far ahead, so it almost seems like we do have some room to grow. And some of the external factors that I would like you to consider, one of those is what's going on currently with Fort Knox. You could see right here Elon Musk talking about looking for the gold at Fort Knox. Well, why is this a big deal? Because Bitcoin is supposed to be digital gold. Let's just say they go in there and they do an audit and they don't see as much gold as supposed to be there. So what ends up happening? Maybe they say, hey, maybe we need to sell some of our gold. This could bring in the conversation about selling gold into digital assets because of custody issues. You never know what could end up coming of that, but Elon says, this gold is the property of the American people. I hope it's still there. And then you could see some interesting conversation from Geiger Capital here. They're saying, what if, and stick with me here, what if there's actually more gold than reported in Fort Knox in the New York Federal Reserve Vault? And the reason we haven't been audited in 50 years is because the U.S. government would have to explain where and when we got it all. Well, this is a soldier. It looks like he's in Iraq or something. I don't know where that picture is, but that looks like some desert camis. For those of you who know, that's probably more than likely Iraq. And then you have U.S. Homeland Security news right here. You can see U.S. Treasury is trying to restock Fort Knox before their upcoming Doge audit. Rumors are flying that Fort Knox gold reserve is empty, being looted shortly after their last audit in 1974. Why are U.S. banks flying gold from London to New York? Okay, well, that's going to impact the price of Bitcoin. Whatever comes of this audit, I believe, is going to have a price impact on Bitcoin. And I think that it's likely going to impact it in a positive way because it's going to highlight custody. You cannot keep an eye. We as the public in the United States or as the people around the world cannot keep track of all the gold in there because we just have to take someone's word for it. But with Bitcoin, it's all public ledger, right? So that's why it's such a big deal to take that into consideration. Okay, so if you're looking right here, you could see here we asked ChatGPT how high could Bitcoin go. Bitcoin's price trajectory has been a subject of extensive analysis and speculation. As of February 18, 2025, Bitcoin is trading at approximately 96,000. Well, you could see Bitwise anticipates that Bitcoin could exceed 200,000, possibly reaching up to 500,000, especially if the U.S. adopts a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So now you see why we're bringing up the Fort Knox conversation, because gold reserves in Fort Knox, well, okay, we've seen that no one really knows. There's no real transparency. Well, with Bitcoin, we would know where it's at and how much there is, right? Van Eck projects a peak, 180,000. They caution about potential substantial fluctuations. You guys know, if you're invested in Bitcoin and you've been in the market for a while, you know that we've got lots of volatility. Market Vector Index is Simulations suggest a cycle top of around 150,000 based on Bitcoin's historical performance trends. That's why I said earlier that the $96,000 range compared to the last cycle around 66,000 really isn't that big of a rise yet, because if you look at the last cycle, right, in 2017 when we hit that high, 19,000, we went all the way up to 60, okay? So that was kind of like a 4x, right? 4x, depending on where you want to call the top. And, you know, that was like that's like a 4x, right? 5x almost. So here we are right now, we haven't even 2x'd. So that's something to consider. Let's just say we 3x from here. That's going to put us just under $300,000. Okay, but that would be a really high projection. Although that is something to consider. You know, do we double? Do we keep doubling? I think at some point in time we stop doubling in price, especially as it gets higher and higher. You know, it's harder to double, like we're seeing with Ethereum. You know, Ethereum's not doubling in price anymore, although many people are anticipating that it's going to go to 10,000, but people are not holding their breath anymore. So if you're looking at what other people are saying, you can see there's a pretty strong consensus that anywhere between $150,000 and $180,000 seems very reasonable. Although some people are projecting 500,000, 200,000. You got Cointelegraph putting it in at 450,000. Okay, that would be a 4 to 5x almost coming in right now. So these are projections influenced by various factors, including macroeconomic conditions. Well, what's a macroeconomic condition? Could be tariffs. That's a macroeconomic condition. It could also be a microeconomic condition. If you're looking at a microeconomic condition, that would be the gold at Fort Knox, specific to the United States. Another would be a decision made by Russia or China. As you know, United States, China, and Russia, I believe, are meeting in Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that, but I think there's peace talks in the way. And Trump was talking about lowering the military budgets of all three of those countries by 50%. So saving money on a lot of defense. We'll see what ends up coming of that. I mean, who's going to really... How can you really trust any one of the three countries? I mean, can you trust the U.S. to like really downsize their military? Can you trust the Russians to really downsize their military, the Chinese? But I'm just saying, if that peace accord or that peace deal is brokered and it does happen, how's that going to impact markets? How's that going to impact Bitcoin? Probably very positively. So they're trying to cut a deal to find some sort of peace between them. But if you really zoom out here, this is another thing that you have to take into consideration. Bitcoin evaluation, transactional demand versus speculative bubble. So you have to talk about the bubble cycle. Where are we at in this bubble? We talked about that in the other video that we made about the downside. How low can we go? Skeptics have labeled it the mother of all bubbles. You can see they've called it a Ponzi scheme. They've called it a bunch of shit, a bunch of things, right? But the truth is, Bitcoin is proving to be just a brand new asset class that's e-cash, it's e-money, something that we've always needed, just a reserve currency on the internet. We've had the physical gold and silver precious metals reserve, but now we have actual Bitcoin, digital currency reserves. So let's take a look at where we are on this bubble. So you can see right here, are we in a stock market bubble? Well, why does the stock market bubble play a factor? Because if the stock market collapses, then we're going to have to deal with fallout from crypto. But at some point in time, we'd like to think that crypto and stocks decouple. Kind of like when the stocks go down, gold goes up. That's what we're kind of waiting on, and it hasn't quite materialized. But you can see the Wall Street cheat sheet right here. This is something that's been around for a long time, thanks to wallstreetcheatsheet.com. But you can see right here, if you look at the Bitcoin chart over the last year, we've kind of got that going, but it's not quite materialized. We haven't quite seen the crazy blow off. I would say we're looking at something like this right here. Hope and optimism. Like, where's the... You could say this is the belief. Is this the belief? You know? But I don't really see how we've reached euphoria. We haven't gotten to a crazy point. Although we just saw Melee from Argentina do a meme coin. Trump's done a meme coin. I mean, some people would say that's an indicator of euphoria. But euphoria is typically when people are just feeling high on life and everyone's so excited. And I haven't really seen that with crypto. I've seen a lot of crypto bros get scorched. you know, they maybe had like a week or two of glory with XRP or with Solana or something like that, but it hasn't really gotten to a point where I've seen euphoria. Even the meme coin market is kind of, it's had its moments, but it hasn't really taken off to a euphoric state. So we're still waiting on that euphoria, I believe. That's where we're still waiting. We don't know exactly when that's going to come, and we don't know if, who knows, maybe we've already had our moment. I mean, the fact that Bitcoin keeps running sideways could either be an absolutely great thing or it could be a sign of negative things to come. But you can see we are still forming higher lows. So you can see a higher low right here, 92. And then you had 92 again. But right here, we're running sideways around the 96 to 97 range. Forming a decent kind of support around that above 90. But really right here, we're getting a nice support level around 96. Okay, something like we've seen over here around the 70s. We saw that around the $70,000 mark before the election. But anyway, I would say that if you take a look at really dialing it in the short term for the market, if we continue to stay bullish, going back to what they say right here, I think that $150,000 to $200,000 range really seems to be the consensus of where people think we're going. On the high side, people have us going 450. That would be great. You know, you could see 500,000 right here. Michael Saylor on the long term has said he thinks it's going to 13 million. I'm not sure the exact timeline on it, but I want to say he said by 2030. Obviously, if it goes to 13 million, I mean, that's like over 100x from here. Okay. People look at Bitcoin and they're like, well, I think we've reached the top here. They don't think that we can go much higher, or the people think it's too expensive. But remember, you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin to buy some Bitcoin. You can buy 0.001. You can buy who knows how many Satoshis, right? If you got 50 bucks and you want to put it into Bitcoin, I still to this day will buy $100 worth of Bitcoin if I like sell something on Craigslist or sell something on OfferUp. I'll just put that money right into Bitcoin. You know, when someone sends it to me on Cash App, boom, straight into Bitcoin. It's money that I don't really have a use for. If I just keep it in my Cash App wallet, it's pointless. So just put it into Bitcoin, dollar cost average along the way. I don't even think about the price. If it's 70,000, 100,000, 200,000, I still just put $100 in. And what ends up happening is you get more and more Bitcoin over time. So you just accumulate. So I would say high end, Michael Saylor, 13 million. He thinks it's possible to go there. Obviously with inflation, we'll see what happens. But then local top 150 to 200,000 if we stay bullish. If you guys are wondering what the bear case is, you can also watch our other video for how low can Bitcoin go, and I'll put a link to that at the end here. See you on the next one.